Welcome to Money Hacks, a podcast series by The Straits Times and The Business Times, where we offer tips for the newcomer to the financial investment scene. Hi, I'm Chris Lim, and my co-host is Ernest Lewis. With us is the head of unsecured loans and cards for DBS Bank, Anthony Seow. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
Now, Anthony, we're aiming this episode at those who are interested in a few key travel spending hacks, ways to stretch their money further when traveling overseas. Could you share the top 3 financial travel tips, the absolute top 3 that everyone should take note of?
The top one on my mind is this one on SIM cards. I think I see a lot of cases where people travel. The first thing they do when they arrive is actually swap out their Singapore SIM cards for a local SIM card to save on roaming charges for data. My advice is don't do that for a very, very simple reason. When you do that, technically speaking, all those safeguards that banks put in place, like SMS, alerts and all that, you will not be able to receive them. So if something happens to your card, get lost, it triggers an alert, you do not receive them. Number 2 is, for me, I don't believe in carrying too much cash, right? Because I think ultimately if you carry too much cash, whatever you change in foreign currency, you're going to have to change it back to Sing dollars, you're incurring FX charges twice. You can always withdraw from ATMs, right? And the third one is the biggest one, if you ask me. A lot of travelers make that mistake. Let's say you're traveling to Hong Kong, they pick you and ask you, would you like pay in Sing dollars or in Hong Kong dollars? And a lot of Singaporeans choose Sing dollars. Now, my advice is choose the local currency wherever you are, because when you choose Singapore dollars, what happens is that it goes through this thing called the dynamic currency conversion, and that's the one where they have a very, very high markup on foreign currency exchange, usually in the range of 8 to 15%. And that's definitely way higher than any bank in Singapore today charge you for charging your card in foreign currency when you travel. It's definitely nowhere near 8 to 15%.
I didn't realize that. I thought, since I pay my bill in Sing dollars, that someone has to change it somewhere. So it doesn't make a difference either way. So there's actually 2 different rates I'm dealing with, the bank and this dynamic
currency conversion.
Currency conversion, I see.
Yeah, you see, if you charge it in, let's say, in Hong Kong dollars, in the example that I gave, the party that's actually doing the conversion is actually Visa, and the markup by the bank is actually very, very transparent if you look at the terms and conditions of the bank that issues you your card. Now, whereas for the other one, where like in Hong Kong example, again, you choose Sing dollars, the conversion is actually done by a vendor. And the reason why they mark it up so high is that the commission is actually then split 3 ways, right? The merchant for one, the system provider, and also usually the bank that puts the machine there, right? So that's why, it's that high, because you have to split the proceeds 3 ways.
I see. Coming back to your point about not carrying too much cash and then drawing from the ATM, are there any fees I need to be aware of when it comes to withdrawing cash from the ATM overseas?
Yes, you have the foreign currency conversion fee, but usually, again, it's really not that much, to be very honest, right? If you look at it, you're going to be drawing mainly for taxi fares and all that. You're not going to be drawing a lot. So seriously, even 1.5%, 2% or whatever, it's not going to be really that big a difference, in that sense. But if you ask me also, the good thing is carrying less cash is actually less risk, right?
So how many credit cards should I bring with me when I go overseas, and how do I juggle them and handle them?
Well, okay. In Singapore, right, if you look at the credit card market, it's very, very competitive. And on average, a Singaporean who is eligible for credit card will have 4 or 5 in their wallets. So I say bring all of them. It's good because, like, for me, one thing I always advise people when they travel, why you want to have a few cards. Firstly, everybody will have 1 or 2 of their favorites. By all means, bring that along, because usually they are your favorites because why you appreciate the rewards that they give you. And usually when you spend overseas, the rewards are higher, right? And you have the other 2, what you want to do is to keep it in the safe in a hotel room. So in the event of you getting robbed or whatever, you still have your spare cards that you can use and you won't spoil your holiday.
Should I do that with cash too?
Oh yes, definitely. But again, don't carry too much cash, but keep some in the hotel room and keep some for what you need just for that day out. So if you lose something, you don't lose everything.
Would you say that's the first thing I should do when I arrive at my hotel room?
Yes, absolutely. And of course, besides that, keep your passport in the safe as well. Except for Japan, if you're going to go shopping, make sure you have a passport with you, because that's where you need it to get your duty-free rebates.
So Anthony, if I'm outside and I'm at an ATM machine, something goes wrong and I key in my PIN and it gets blocked or something like that, what should I do first? Should I start panicking, call my family, get out of line, or what should I do?
Okay, the first thing to do is, there are some markets like South Africa, etc., right, where we have heard instances like this. So my advice is don't walk away. Usually the scam is this, right, is that they'll come in, some stranger will come up and say, pretending to help you, say, oh, just key in your ATM PIN again. Don't do that, right? Okay. What they do is, don't do that, don't walk away, call the bank, don't leave the line. Call the bank quickly, block your card first, okay? Block your card first. right? Some of them, what they do is tell you to key in your ATM, it doesn't work, then you walk away and they are able to manipulate and take cash out.
So this ties into your point about the SIM card. Why it's important to retain your number
exactly.
overseas.
Yes.
And what about multi-currency accounts? Let's say if I'm savvy, I'm a younger, savvier person. A lot of my younger friends around me in their 20s and all that are telling me, oh, you should try this. Can you explain that for other people?
The multi-currency account, we're proud to say actually we're a pioneer in this. We are the first to launch it in the market. It's basically a multi-currency account which have about 11 purses, if you like. So that means you can actually store 11 different currencies. So if you are savvy and you are one of those that invest in foreign currencies or in stock markets, and let's say you invest in the US stock market, it's good to buy US dollars when you think the timing is right. And you do travel there, you can actually draw from that purse without having to incur foreign currency exchange that you're not familiar with. You know what rate you like, that's the rate, no other charges. So it's actually very, very good for people who travel regularly to a destination by doing that.
Whereas different locations.
And different locations, yes. Yeah, so 11, so you can buy those currencies that you frequently travel to at rates that you're comfortable with.
And are there any other tips that you have, say for example, things that we shouldn't do?
In my business, it's quite interesting, right? We do see, like for example, the ATM one, the situation, right? For people to be very careful. The other one also is this, at one point in time, we did see cardholders actually coming back telling us that they were forced to do a transaction under duress. So where that situation is one where they go to a place and after that they want to leave, the bill is totally inflated, they are forced to sign the bill, they don't sign the bill, the bouncers don't let you out, or they threaten to cause you bodily harm. My advice is be aware of that. Please only go to reputable places. Usually things like this happen in dodgy places, right? So go to reputable places. That should kind of protect you.
This is where some common sense comes in.
Exactly.
Coming back to having several different cards, they're only useful if I activate the magnetic strips, right? Or should I do that for all the cards, or should I be selective about activating the magnetic strips?
Okay, so firstly, my advice on the magnetic strip is that you should always disable them because it's not as secure as a chip. Now, you only need to enable them if you're going into a market that uses MagStripe. So for example, like most parts of the US are still MagStripe. So if you're going to the US, then you may not have a choice but to activate it. But once you come back, you should deactivate it.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for Money Hacks. And do send us your feedback to podcast@sph.com.sg. There are also more podcasts on various topics at The Straits Times and The Business Times. Do note that any financial or investment information in this podcast is for use in Singapore only and is intended to be for your general information. Any particular investment or decision should only be made after consulting with a fully qualified financial advisor.